Hello, everyone, and welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm your host this evening, Shawna Presley Vercher, and we have a lot of conversation to have this evening. There's some news that's been breaking throughout the day. We've got some election results plus some elections we're still keeping an eye on. We're still waiting to see how some critical elections will shape out. Some of them have made national headlines, and some of them you might not have noticed. So we're going to give you some insider information. Thanks to Bolts Magazine for providing us with that research. So now let's dive in. Good evening, everyone, on this lovely Tuesday. If you are joining us live, this is special election night. Let me tell you what we're going to cover throughout the show. We've got a few major stories. Okay, first of all, we're going to do live coverage of elections across the country. What happened in key races, some of which we already know, and why is there actually good news coming out of Florida? Maybe not what we wanted to hear, but some positivity nonetheless. And was Elon Musk able to successfully buy himself a state Supreme Court seat? We're waiting on that answer, and we're going to get it here hopefully while we're on the air. Then on top of that, we've got a positive political fix story for you. There's a hero in our midst. We're going to discuss record-breaking incidents that happened today in our nation's capital. What happened? Why does it matter? And what can we all take away from it? What should we expect? And what can we do to keep this momentum going? So we're going to talk about our positive political fix. And you happen to be joining us on a fun night. As some of you might know from discussing this on last week's program, this is my birthday week. My birthday is Thursday. Yes, we'll surprise very few people to learn that I'm an Aries. It is Aries season, everyone. So to celebrate and commemorate that, there's a few things that I wanted to do. First of all, I wanted to make sure to spend time with so many of you. That was a top birthday wish that I had. So we want to make sure to have a fun evening for you. But the other thing is, we are also, thank you. We are also going to be talking about the new book that just came out, early release tonight, A Fearless Voice. We're going to talk about what the book is, how you can get it, and why you should care. Honestly. So there's a lot to this. It is very parallel to what we're doing. So towards the end of the program, if you are someone that's interested in trying to find yourself right now and pick yourself back up, we're going to get you covered towards the end of the program with a special personal segment for A Fearless Voice. I want to hear about your fearless moments. I want you to recommit to your resolve to be fearless. Fearlessness is the theme for tonight, to be honest. That is the theme. So if you're coming here looking for inspiration, looking for hope, looking to get that fight and that swagger, you're in the right place. If you're coming here to be a downer and tell us that everything is beyond repair, probably not the place for you. We've got a lot of optimism to go through tonight. Thank you to Betty and so many others for wishing happy birthday wishes. Let's make good use of your time by talking about what's happening across the country. All right. For those of you that are just joining us, this is the Political Fixer Live. You can catch us live on TikTok. You can catch us on the Political Fixer channel on YouTube. And after this program is over, you can watch it for free in whatever way that you would like, on whatever device that you would like on the YouTube channel. It's up within a little bit. Hello to Rachel and to Kelly and to Genification. So many people. And yes, Jean, you are correct. We are definitely going to be talking about Booker on this program. So many things to get to. All right, let's talk about something that you might consider. Now, forgive me as I reach forward because I am going to be checking election coverage throughout the night. We are expecting some results. So you're going to see me sitting here and touching the screen more than usual to try to get you. This is my inner Steve Kornacki coming out. There's no khaki pants down here, but still, we're going to channel him and get you some results as we go through. All right, this might seem like a negative, but I'm going to go ahead and give you the Florida results and what I think are the takeaways from what happened in Florida. We had two special elections that just wrapped up, and the Democrats were not successful at securing either one of those seats. Those results just closed tonight, and so that is disappointing that even now. Let me just stop for a second. This isn't just about national politics, though that is critically important, and we were all hopeful that we would pick up at least one seat right now. There's some glimmers. We're going to talk about it in just a second, but let me tell you, let's start with the negative. I'm in Florida, and it's not just that they lost. It's that one of the dudes that just won, his name is Jimmy Patronis. He was the former state CFO. of the state of Florida. Now, that might not mean a lot to any of you outside of Florida, but if you are here, or if you own property here, or if maybe your parents or family members are here, if you've heard about these skyrocketing insurance costs that are here, like surreal insurance costs. If you've heard about hurricanes wiping out houses and people getting 15, 16 grand for their entire home as insurance payout, all of the scams, all of the fraud, all of the corruption, well, guess whose watch it was under? So it's just really disappointing that these guys not just fail up, but fraud up. So a little bit that we have to swallow here, that it's not just that they pick the wrong guy, they somehow pick the worst guy. It's just like a pageant of grossness every single time. So that is the negative that we're seeing, right? But at the same time, there's some glimmers here. Let me tell you some perspective. We did try. I mean, we had teams from all over the state that were coming in. Some of you were calling, phone banking. We did some videos. I know a lot of you gave to the campaign. We don't have any way of seeing those numbers because it went directly to the campaign. But I know hundreds of thousands of you passed around videos of ours alone, just trying to get people engaged. Let me tell you what your work did get you. Both races have been called, and it looks like they're going to be within about 10 points. Now, that sounds like a lot. I understand that. It is kind of a lot, but let me give you some context. District 6, which that district, the reason there's a special election in that district is because Mr. Signalgate himself, Waltz, he is the guy that vacated that seat to go serve in the government, right? Okay, so when he last ran for that seat, then he won by 33 points. So that means in one, not even election cycle, we're talking about a few months. In a few months, Democrats moved that needle by over 20 points. In the panhandle, the freaking panhandle of Florida, red, 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 practically Alabama red, okay? Gay Valmont, she lost by around 10 points. This was Matt Gaetz' seat, but alleged predator Matt Gaetz won that seat by 32 points, right? So we're talking about swings of over 20 points in both seats. And this isn't just me being Pollyanna and seeing these numbers. You know who else is watching these numbers? 47. How do we know that? Because some interesting news happened this week when we were getting the polls back from these districts. As we were taking a look at insider numbers, we knew that it was likely that Democrats might not pull this one off, but we saw how much closer the gap was getting. How close? Well, Elise Stefanik, who is a congresswoman, a Republican congresswoman, and perpetual brown noser in New York, right? This woman had a safe seat. Let me get the data for you. She won her district in New York by 24 points. And she has kissed up to this dude in the Oval for months and months and months, if not years, right? So that she could get a position of honor. And she was so close to having it. She was about to be the United Nations ambassador for serving for the United States, right? She was practically decorating the office, having her new stationery made, and she got a call this week. And the call was from 47 himself saying, sorry, no. He withdrew her nomination from the United Nations. He withdrew it. Why? He said why. He said why. He said he was worried about this, I got to find the quote here, the slim majority in Congress. He said a slim majority in the House. So he's looking at a congressional seat that they won by 24 points. He's taking the wind, even him, even with his level of delusion of grandeur, right? He took the temperature and said, no, we might lose this one. We might lose this 24-point seat if you vacate it right now. Okay, so this is what's happening. Midterms are it. The midterms are one of our top focuses. They have to be. They have to be. This Congress is not going to slow down. They are not going to stand up to him. We know that. But you know what? They are starting to see that the American people are angry. They are starting to see and get nervous. And we're going to see some of that take shape more in the House as more of these polls come out and more people start protesting and they see, oh, wait, these aren't just Soros paid protesters. People are actually really upset. When the economy continues to go downwards, when people keep standing up, then we're going to start to see shifting and scurrying. In the meantime, who cares what the GOP does? Honestly, who cares at this point? They burned it. They're done. They are tied to him. They are yoked forever to whatever he and Musk and Doge do. It's time now to recruit good, strong Democrats and start primarying the weak ones right now. Find a friend, write to a business leader, go get a mayor who's outstanding that you admire. Ask them to run for Congress and pledge your support, pledge to volunteer. Right now is when we've got to start getting organized for Congress. I want to thank Robin and so many others who are sharing us with gifts this evening. We're going to keep going on some election results. I want to know what you think about Florida. Are you surprised? On the one hand, holy moly, how can anyone still vote for the GOP right now when they are MAGA and Doge extraordinaire? I get that. But on the other hand, 20-point swing. What do you think? Is this overall frustrating to you? Is it good news and a glimmer of hope in the future? Would love to know what you think, right? It is disappointing, but there are people that are hardwired to vote a certain way. I will also say, living here, there are shortcomings and shortfalls that are in the Florida Democratic structure. There just are. And so you're talking about people that bravely decided to run for office and they put everything out there. They did what they were supposed to do. They raised the money. They knocked on the doors and it made a difference. It made a 20-point difference, right? Let me just see if we've got some election results on something else really fast. We have results coming in way too early to tell, but we've only got 1% county we're waiting to see. I'm getting some trolling already, so yay, happy birthday to me. Love to see the trolls out on this political live evening saying, hey, you were wrong. Why should I ever listen to you again? Yes, generally speaking, two people run for office. One side thinks that their person will win. The other person thinks that their person will win. That's how America works. And so we're generally wrong about half the time. That's how it works. If we weren't wrong, then that would mean there was something terribly wrong with our democracy. If we knew well ahead of time how every election was going to turn out, that means we're broken. So yes, I will take hope and effort and leaving it all out on the stage and working as hard as we could to get an amazing woman elected rather than just walking away because we might lose and it gets too hard and it might hurt our feelings. So one of them is weakness. That's what that's called. When you don't try, when you're scared to fail, when you're cynical all the time, you're like, nothing I do will matter. It will always be broken. That's not a sign of strength. That little shell you've put around yourself, that's weakness. So I think the bravest thing that people can do is hope. The best thing they can do is work. And that's what we do. And that's what so many of you do. Our political fixer family. You're out working in your communities. You are taking chances. You're here on a Tuesday night to talk about politics when, goodness gracious, are there so many broken things about politics. Now we're going to talk about something really awesome that happened in politics today in just a bit. Let me do another quick sweep here. We're watching a couple of other races while we're waiting for the big race in the Wisconsin State Supreme Court to get us some more results, which it's way, way, way too early. Let me tell you a few other races that if you've got pen and paper, if you're driving, please do not try to write this down or jot it on your notes. I'm just going to read these. Hopefully you can commit them to memory. They're not going to get called while we're on the air, but I want to tell you some other races that we're keeping an eye on across the country and why. So we are going to talk about the Wisconsin State Supreme Court seat in a bit. We're hoping that that does get called when we're on the air, and we're definitely hoping it gets called our way. But there's a couple of others I want you to keep an eye on. One of them is a mayor's race in Omaha, Nebraska. I know, seems random. And again, I want to thank the team at Bolts Magazine who does all this research. It's a nonprofit organization. If you ever get a chance to donate to Bolts Magazine, I don't make anything from that, but they do amazing, impeccable, really diligent election research. Okay. So there is a Republican that is currently seeking her fourth term as mayor in Omaha, Nebraska. Now you might say to yourself, yeah, it's Omaha. It's a Republican. I get it. However, there's some drama. Apparently, there's been some shifting around. Not only does she have two formidable Democrats who are now running against her and who are polling well, but there's been a hiccup. There's a very popular state senator whose name is Mike McDonnell. And he was a Democrat and then, again, took the temperature in the room. He switched to be a Republican to run in this race. Okay, so he's a really well-liked guy, was a Democrat, now he's a Republican. Can he topple the much more conservative mayor? Or does this create so much friction at the top that then one or more of the Democrats can find their way in? Now, Omaha mayor's races, I have come to learn, work a little bit differently. So all 4 candidates are on the same ballot, and then the top 2 move on or to the general. So if you're keeping an eye on it, if you're bored later on, and we might do some postings on this depending on how it turns out, but another race to keep an eye out on is Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha has some weird, tricky politics, and if you're looking to see how conservative the conservatives are right now, it's a good bellwether for us to look at. Do they go with the really conservative sitting Republican, the, new Coke version of the Republican and McConnell, or are they tired of the whole thing and, shake things up with a Democrat or 2 in the top 2? We're going to wait and see. The other thing I want you to keep an eye on, completely different page here, is in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is also having their mayoral primary tonight. There is a mayor of Jackson that's been there since 2017, really popular, but whoops, got caught up in some fraud charges, like serious federal corruption charges. And he's been dealing with that ever since last fall. And so hasn't been convicted yet, but indicted. So we've got, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name, Lumumba. He has now opened this primary, because this guy seemed like he was unbeatable until the charges came out, right? Let me tell you, there are 11 people running against him in this primary. Now, this is really important because Jackson, Mississippi is one of those few areas that sometimes goes Democratic. So since this guy, I'm not even going to say they toppled him, kind of toppled himself if these charges are true, correct? But if he goes by the wayside, and if he Eric Adams himself, at least that's what we hope is going to happen to Eric Adams. If he Eric Adamses himself, then will Jackson swing more conservative, or will another Democrat take the helm? And keep in mind, this is Mississippi. So we're going to be keeping up with all of this, right? A lot of stuff to talk about as we go through here. All right, let's see here. We've got more people here. Genification is saying, thankful that I'm following these races. This is a nerd hobby that I have. I like to look at little things that might seem unimportant, but when you've got special elections and a downtime like this, then it kind of shows you where we are. I get the Florida races didn't work out the way that we hoped that they would, but if you put this into context, if everything swung between 5 and 7 points, we'd have an entirely different looking Congress, and it would be far more Democratic, just 5 to 7 points. So when you're talking about a swing of 20, that is seismic. Now, these are specials. You can't read too much into some of the margins, but 20 points is 20 points. And so when you put that into context, if you translate that mobilization, that anger, the people wanting something different, did they pull it out in Florida? No, but that tells me that we can absolutely flip some of these much closer seats in some of the other districts. That's what it tells me. It tells me that if you've got a race that was, 48 to 52, guess what? If you've got even a 10-point swing, you're now talking about a lot more Democrats that are in office, right? That's what it means. That means that we can start winning back some of these purple seats, and we took a bath on those purple seats in the last election. This was a bad election for Democrats across the board, right? So there are indicators here. There's one more race I want to tell you about. I'm going to keep checking this Wisconsin Supreme Court race just to keep you guys updated. Only 5% of the vote in, so we know absolutely nothing. Okay, so when we're looking at this, one other race I want you to look at, it's going to happen past most of our bedtimes, but if you get up and you feel like doing some Googling tomorrow morning, take a look at the Anchorage, Alaska school board race. Okay, I know, this is nerdy even for me, but follow me here. Okay, there is a school board candidate who is running in Anchorage, Alaska. Her name is, I want to make sure I get the correct name. Rosales. I didn't want to blame her opponent for what I'm about to quote here. Alexander Rosales. Okay, So Alexander Rosales, the guy who's one of the men who's running for this particular Anchorage, Alaska seat, he's not just conservative. He's not just let's not make accommodations for kids with special needs and LGBTQ kids. He actually posted the quote, ban trans kids, ban them, as in don't let them in the building, and has held that position the entire time. Now, as we've started to see that anti-inclusion, anti-trans, anti-woke, whatever you want to call it, that it's not working. That actually, arguably, it's kind of hurting our processes right now. More planes are crashing, the economy is falling, government agencies are shutting down, no one seems to know what they're doing anymore. Is that bashing on the picked on kids, is that going to remain popular? That's what we're looking at. This person is not just conservative, he's hateful. So is that something they still want in Anchorage, Alaska? So I'm going to keep an eye out and see if Rosales wins this school board seat or if Margot Bellamy, his opponent, plays out. Now, this is not going to close until midnight Eastern time. It's 8 p.m. their time is when the polls close. But if you want a little bit of digging onto what the temperature is across the country with some of this stuff, I like to look at those little gems and see what are we looking at? Is the temperature changing in the country? Is the same shtick still working when it's already been proven to be not just hateful, but nonsense, right? It's not helpful. Okay, artist Lynn said our country is going to the dark side. Lynn, I definitely feel you on some of that, but I'm going to tell you a really bright story and just a bit before we get to that. However, let's do a quick another check. Any other races that you are following across the country, let me know. Turtle Lovers joining us now. What about Florida? We did not pick up those seats in Florida. However, the spread went from over 30 points to down to around 10. So tough loss. Hard to believe that some people would still vote the way that they're voting, but they did not cover it. That's the bad news. The good news is 20-point pickup, which again would be seismic if that carried through. Okay, it is way, way, way too early to call. Just want to say, like, there's way too much information that we still need to see, and only 7% of the votes have been counted in the Wisconsin Supreme Court election. Susan Crawford, the more progressive judge, not Brad Schimmel, the guy who dressed up as 47 for Halloween, literally, she's leading him by like a fraction of a nose right now, but it's way, way too early. We're going to keep our eye on that. We're going to wait and see what happens with these special elections across the race. So we're going to, yes, Wheel lost, Josh Wheel lost, and so did Gabe Alamont. Okay, but we're going to keep an eye on it. So we're going to keep an eye on the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. Let's pivot to our second story really fast. We're going to keep an eye on this Wisconsin special election. It is very important. We'll give some context as we get closer to being able to make a call. Let's talk about a positive story that's happening right now. They are calling him on the interwebs Philibooker. Let me tell you what happened. So Senator Cory Booker from the great state of New Jersey, our Chief of Staff Sarah's home state, he took to the Senate floor and vowed to disrupt business as usual. He said that he wanted to use the Senate filibuster to stand up to 47, Musk, and Doge and what they are doing to this country. Now, he didn't just decide to take up the filibuster and, run it through and get a couple of free media points and go. No, let me tell you what happened. I'm going to put this into context for you. The latest historical marker in filibuster, when you stand up on the floor of the Senate or the House and you talk, you cannot leave, you cannot take a break. If you stop talking for a certain amount of time, like to shove food in your face or something, you cede the floor. It is a marathon. It has been used not just in Congress and the Senate throughout history, but some of you may remember Wendy Davis, who did this on the floor of the state of Texas to try to protest some of the really hateful anti-choice legislation that they were proposing for women. Historically, let me tell you, in 1957, Senator Strom Thurmond, who was from South Carolina, he had the longest filibuster in United States history. How long was it? He spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes straight, over a day straight. Now, why did Senator Thurmond in the 1950s take to the floor? Well, he wanted to block the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1957. It was the first federal civil rights legislation since Reconstruction. These are some of the actual quotes that he made, though I am going to amend some of the language because it's highly offensive. So he says, this so-called civil rights proposal is unconstitutional, unnecessary, unwise, and unjust. He said that desegregation is a threat not just to states' rights, but to Southern tradition. Ugh. He said there's not one single incident of voter intimidation in the South. Okay, outright blatant lie. And then he said, and this is a quote that I'm adjusting slightly for language, all the laws of Washington and all the bayonets of the army cannot force the African Americans into our homes, into our schools, our churches, and our places of recreation and amusement. So that was the history. Hey, Divine AF girl, thank you so much for the gifts. So the context here is that the record was held by a racist desegregationist, Strom Thurmond, until today. And today, Senator Cory Booker wrapped up over 25 hours of a filibuster on the United States Senate floor. I want you to think about this, right? It's not just breaking the record, though the numbers and standing. You have to be standing. You cannot leave. You don't get to eat. You have to talk most of the time. There's some little tricks where your colleagues can ask you some questions to give you a couple of minutes to breathe. But 24 hours, he made it to 25, and he did it staring into the eyes of a really gross history that had things gone differently, and had the late Senator Strom Thurmond had his way after his filibuster, then Senator Booker would not be on the floor. He wouldn't be anywhere near the House, right? He would not be allowed to serve as a United States Senator. As an African American in this country, it wasn't just what he was fighting for now, but what he represented. And there were moments, if any of you saw the footage, that it clearly got to him. And he said at one point, I am here because as powerful as that man, Strom Thurmond, was, the people were more powerful. But this isn't just about the context of the filibuster and the numbers in and of itself. I want to give you something about the substance, all right? When Strom Thurmond was opposing segregation and civil rights, desegregation and civil rights, yes, he had some nasty quotes and a few speeches, but most of his time that he used, because you could talk about anything. We have had senators literally read Green Eggs and Ham into record. They're just passing the time. The disruption is the point. What you say a lot of times kind of falls by the wayside because you're just killing time. You're just trying to prevent people from being able to pass laws, and you're trying to shock the Senate and the country into paying attention to what's happening. So when Strom Thurmond did his filibuster, he filled it largely with reading the Constitution and law books out loud. He read some historical speeches and documents into the record, and then he started reading recipe cards and phone books and recent news items. He just read and filled that time, right? And yet, that's not what happened with Cory Booker. Let me tell you, every minute of that was fire and passion. There was more than one moment when he broke down. He read letters from his constituents. He told stories of what he knew as far as the government agencies and how they're supposed to function. He pled with America and the Senate to care. Now, he stayed on topic. How much has to be broken with our country that you can fill 25 hours with grievances and pleas and just cries for us to do better? It was the most astounding thing. One of you, it scrolled really fast. I want to see who it was. It was Heather Cook Newman said, I can't wait to hear about how they prepped and the staff. Yes, Heather, he thanked his staff several times. In fact, he thanked the crew and the janitorial staff and everyone that stayed at the Capitol overnight. He's an extremely thoughtful guy. We'll get to that more in a moment. But his staff spent days. Thank you, Glorian. He spent days with them researching, drafting talking points, preparing reports. I see Professor Liberty F. Squires with us tonight. They researched and prepared for all of this, but even with the 24 hours of talking straight, technically 25, he didn't lose his voice, but he also didn't lose his his passion for what he was talking about. He looked by the end of it that if you had given him 15 minutes and a Red Bull, he could have come back and done another 24 hours. The dude was fired up. It was something that mattered. I want to tell you how he closed. I was watching as I was prepping for the show and doing some other things. I was watching for how he was going to wrap this up. Genification says it was extremely powerful. He closed with an acknowledgement of the late Representative John Lewis and civil rights icon, a personal hero to many, but he knew him well and he considered him a mentor. And he said, "Let's go cause some good and necessary trouble to redeem the soul of America." But it was his own words that I would like to try to etch into our memories. He said, "It starts with hope. We, the people, let's get back to the founding ideals. This is a moral moment. This is not left or right. It is right or wrong. Let's get in good trouble." It was just, Kelly says I was in tears so many times. I'm extremely cynical when it comes to PR stunts, partially because it's my job sometimes to create them, right? And I know how much glitter can sometimes go on some pretty shabby cardboard to try to get media attention. But I'm telling you, not just from watching today, a heartbeat that you could feel if you were paying attention. He is that authentic. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about takeaways from this in just a second, but just give me like 30 seconds here. I've met Cory Booker a couple of times. I've done a lot of work in New Jersey. I've heard him speak personally and I've followed his presidential run quite closely. I am a huge Cory Booker fan, not necessarily just because I think he's a nice guy. I find it fascinating that he's still a nice guy. I find it really interesting when someone can go to Washington, receive one of the most powerful elected positions that our nation has to bestow on someone, and is still a good person. And I don't pretend to be close friends with him, but I know a lot of my colleagues in the business who are, and they say the same thing. There's no off switch on this dude. He is that guy. He believes in that. Now, he gets teased for it. Sometimes it can be frustrating because we want to see him get a little feistier sometimes and get a little mean. It's not in him. It is not in him, right? If a stray dog came up and bit him, he would apologize for being in the way of the dog and make sure he was well taken care of when they took him, right? Like, that's who this dude is, right? And someone says that the cat stole one of their AirPods, so they're just kind of watching me, I guess, mime these stories. So hello, you're missing some really good stuff. Anyway, Mary Wisdom says he is a Christ follower. Yes, he's a man of faith, unapologetically so, right? And some people said they were watching it for hours. Same. Anytime I could, I had it on the background. It was, really great in my world that March Madness games were on pause, that I didn't have to choose between two loves, sports and politics. So I get to just have Cory Booker in the background as I was working all day today. So I want to say one other thing. So I again mentioned that I met with Senator Cory Booker a couple of times. And again, I doubt he would remember me from anyone. However, years ago, over a decade now, when I said that I was leaving the business world and I announced publicly that I was going to go into politics and social justice full time, a lot of people quietly were like, "What are you doing? You've been in business and tech your entire career. What are you doing?" And you want to know the very first major elected that reached out, gave me a personal message of encouragement and said, "Yes, absolutely, I'm behind you. Go do this." It was Cory Booker. I still have that message. I don't think that he thinks I'm amazing. I think that's who he is. I think when he sees someone that's trying something, that wants to do good, he does not care that there's someone from Tampa Bay, Florida that he's never heard of before. He's got their back. And so what is our takeaway from this, right? And here's the thing. Let's start with the positive takeaways, and let's start with the cynical takeaways that actually are kind of positive. So Democrats stood up for him today. They got his back. I want to point out that one of them in particular, who's a close friend of his, I don't think I realized how close they were until watching this, was Senator Chris Murphy. Now, I have a soft spot in my heart for Chris Murphy because I covered the Newtown tragedy live when I used to be on ABC News. And so that one was one of the ones that gutted me, that story, and to watch what I used to refer to as the Newtown senator. He's a good egg as well, kind of says some things sometimes that I don't always agree with, but I feel like I know who he is as a man. So the fact that those two are thick as thieves in the best way does not surprise me. Apparently Chris Murphy didn't just show up to like give him a high five and leave. He stayed the entire 25 hours. He stayed the entire 25 hours. And then his colleagues as well were coming in and out, and they were offering him some sort of relief. And by that, I mean, they would intentionally ask some somewhat long-winded questions so that he could have a little bit of a respite, right? So that he could just catch his breath, get some water, collect his thoughts. And there were some subtle things too. Like he would lose a name or a place or a specific kind of fact because, after 25 hours, he was getting a bit delirious, and they would shout it to him. They would keep him going. They were giving him the information and the encouragement that he needed. And I know that right now, it's like, well, he's a Democrat, they're a Democrat. No. Let me explain something to you. He just took national attention. If he was failing and no one was paying attention, then yeah, they might be like, good job, dude, way to try it, right? When you have a colleague who's younger, who's not at the top of the heap, they are always rivals with each other, even when they're on the same team, right? You're talking about a guy that was getting hundreds of thousands of views. Towards the end, I was looking at AP, I was looking at his channel, I was looking at C-SPAN 2, all of them, hundreds of thousands of people tuning in live. There were over 100 million hits on different videos of his, right? And 75 Corvette says there were 3 Republicans that joined him as well. That is so true. And I don't have their name, 75 Corvette. So if you have any of them and can acknowledge them, please let me know so I can shout them out. Really important. And some of you are asking about that. We'll circle back in just a second. But I want to point out something that pertains to all of us. There's a reason I'm taking you down this road. This is a competitive business. And whether we feel like they are realizing it or not, they do understand the power of media. They understand that media exposure can make or break campaign funding or even their very positions, even those that might feel like they're in a safe seat. Look at what happened to Chuck Schumer recently. Media outcry, and he is not feeling so comfortable anymore, right? Okay, so for them to look and say, he's doing this, but I can make a decision. I can try to make sure he fails so he doesn't outshine me. Or I can pick up on this energy, realize that it's working, that people are wanting this, and I can help him. Now, whether they did that because they're genuinely good people and they really like him and they wanted him to succeed and Corey's like beloved amongst the Senate, maybe that's part of it. Or maybe they secretly are like, dang it, I hate it when this dude gets attention. He's so annoying. But guess what? The people want someone to fight, and I gotta be there. Okay, where am I taking you with all of this? They're learning. It took so long. This is one of the most conservative, and I don't mean politically, I mean in how they behave. They don't like to act out of turn in the US Senate. Most of them still consider it to be extremely prestigious. They don't like to make waves, but they saw what happened. Now, what do you think is about to happen? They're going to see how much attention and press and donations and phone calls and social media love and fans. People are calling for him to run for president. They're calling for him to be the new minority Senate leader. They're going to see that, and that just became a carrot. Our millions and millions of phone calls that we've been making and leaving as distressed voicemails, that was definitely the stick. We've been doing everything we can with our blasted stick. But he just showed them the carrot. He just showed them another way, right? I just think, okay, I love what Kamala says. Manners are constructed by people on the top of the hierarchy to demand deference. Oh, love that so much. Jen Fennedy, thank you so much for the gifts. Okay, I want to hear from you. MJV says, I don't trust Cory Booker to be progressive, but I appreciate him doing something. I will counter you and say that in some areas, he's actually very progressive. I feel you on some. He's very moderate. That dude is going to compromise until, until the death of all of us if he can find that glimmer. But I'll tell you, on areas that I have followed him, reforming the justice center, the justice system, taking medical care and making it affordable to everyone. He might not actually call it, Medicare for all, but the idea of it being accessible to everyone, he's extremely passionate about. His father passed away from Parkinson's. So he has a progressive streak. Do I think he still needs, some guidance? Absolutely. But this could be something that changes him. We could radicalize Cory Booker, y'all. This could be it. So let's put it back in your hands. Couple of things. Number one, what can you do about it? If you like what you saw, please say so. Please post about it on social. The legacy media covered it a bit, but in my opinion, not nearly enough. If this had been a sports moment and we were about to watch a record break in sports, oh my goodness, the wall-to-wall coverage. I'd be getting texts, I'd be getting updates. Most people that I know didn't know it was happening until the very end. So we can fill that void. Create content. Pick a storyline from this. Your favorite quote, why it broke history, doesn't matter. The three Republicans that stood up with him, whatever you want to do, make sure that you thank him for this, right? And I'd go one step further. Call other Democratic senators. They don't have to be yours. I don't care. We're in it now. Do not worry about if they're your senators. They're all ours. We need to take them and we need to boss them around. Again, Aries season. Let's do this. Let's get bossy. Okay, so call these Democratic senators. Say, yes, more of this. What he just did, I want to see it from you. I don't want to see you break his record. That's not what I'm saying. Get up there for 10 hours. If you each, at 40 senators each, or however many there are that are Democrats, did 10 hours each and you kept rotating, prevent them from voting on anything ever again. Can we keep this record going for, 3 years and 10 months? Can we keep that? Encourage the behavior you want to see. Okay? I want to make sure that we keep this energy going. So that's your homework. Second thing, I want to hear from you tonight and of course later after the show. If you watched any of this, if you're hearing about it now, did it inspire you? And if so, is there a specific action that it brought out in you? Is there something that maybe you were a little nervous about and you're like, I know I need to do something to make a difference. I know this matters, but what can I do? I might make people mad. People might find out that I'm a Democrat or I'm an independent, not really super conservative. Is there an action that people like yourselves have been inspired to take? Nurse Retired said, I cried a lot. One of you said that Lindsey Graham is your senator and he's essentially hopeless. I get it. Call another senator. It doesn't have to be yours. Call them, right? 75 Corvette said, I immediately posted 10 videos to share. That's amazing. I encouraged others to watch. Laura is saying, it was nice to see because people have felt like Dems aren't doing anything. Exactly. So it's not just about praising him, though I do love rewarding people for, again, the behavior we want to see. But a lot of us have felt alone and abandoned. Let's be really honest here. If we were looking at the chessboard and half of those pieces were missing that we expected to find there, it's been unnerving. So think about that energy and enthusiasm and hope that you got and spread that to other people that don't know about this yet. Sometimes we assume that people know everything that we know, that, oh, everybody's heard about this. It's not true. It is not true. I want to give you an update on the Wisconsin Supreme Court race. It is still too early to call. However, right now, with 40% of the votes totaling, Susan Crawford, who is the more progressive state Supreme Court justice who is running for the Wisconsin Supreme Court race, is winning by 15 points. Too early to call. We're going to keep an eye on this, but we're going to talk more about this. We're going to try to see if we can hang on for a call here and put some context on this and see what happens, right? We got somebody saying it was taxpayers' money wasted all day. How is it taxpayers' money wasted? Explain this to me, because they get paid the same salary. You think Cory Booker got overtime, dude? What are you even saying? So how about this? I will trade you We'll only filibuster for 24 straight hours or 24 cumulative hours, one time for every golf trip that we're paying for 47. How is that deal? How about that? Because one of them costs a few $1,000s in staff time for the actual people who maintain the building. The rest of them cost millions of dollars every time that dude swings his putt and pretends like he's doing something. Okay, so you can call it taxpayer waste if you would like. That is delusional. Okay, absolutely. What are you thinking? Senators are like punching a time card and that we're paying them for extra words? No, that's nonsense. Okay. Which is, I love when people just look for a way to be cynical and mean. Like, can we just at least exist in this reality? Could we at least establish that construct together as a team? All right. Okay, we are going to do something a little bit different tonight. We're going to keep going with these election results. You know, I see so many of you that are doing stuff. I see that Silent Raindrops is saying that they're bummed about the Florida race, but encouraged they were at least closer than in November. Yes. I never want to be negative with this stuff. This is a very hard state to win in right now. I'm going to tell you something that I would never have said publicly if it hadn't turned out this way until the results were final. But as some of you know, I posted videos about the Florida elections a few times. I was posting on social. I had said I had been in contact with some of their campaigns. I was doing what I could, you know, on camera, but also behind the scenes. I was calling some known donors and bundlers in Florida. I was calling different groups in Florida saying, hey, I've helped with special elections before. I will train you for free and show you how to volunteer for these races in other parts of Florida. Let's do the Doug Jones, Alabama thing again. Like, let's do it. We did it before. We can do it again. And almost universally, people outside of Florida are like, yes, what can I do? Can I drive down? Can I knock doors? Can I donate? Can I post? People that work in the small circle of Democratic politics in Florida, almost across the board, every single one of them I talked to are like, what's the point? She can't win. He can't win. What is the point? Why try? Okay. So that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so when I talk about the bravery of some of these people who run for office here, they know that that's what they're going to get greeted with. And by the way, that's a best case scenario. Democrats in Florida are really good at eating our own. We are really good at eating our own. And yet they came with all of the decks stacked against them in so many ways. The demographics, no one really covering this the way they did in Alabama that year on the media. They mentioned it. It wasn't a big news story to the common household. Their party was not able to support them in a lot of ways. I'm not saying some of them didn't try. They really had not a lot of help, and yet they put themselves out there. So I want you to grade these people. When you're looking at this, that's what I'm going to beg you to do right now. If you're on the outside looking in, I don't want you to think of this as two people started on the starting line of a relay race and our guy got lapped by an entire lap. That's not what I want you to think about. I want you to think about two people started on a line at a relay race. We essentially took a hammer to one of their kneecaps and still said, hey, hope you can run this race. That's what happened, and they still came pretty dang close. That's what it's like to run a lot of Democratic campaigns in Florida. There are a lot of people working very hard to change it, and I never like to end on a negative. So let me shout out someone positive in what they did. I want to give a special shout out to the Hillsborough County, which is Tampa Bay, hours away from either one of these races. The Tampa Bay LGBTQ caucus. They got into cars and vans and they raised money to be able to get people into these districts and knock doors for multiple weekends. They did the work. And that is something, again, hardest thing you can do is hope, but the best thing you can do is work. And they did. And they're hearing the same thing from the same people I am, and they still got in their cars. They still took time off. They still took up donations and collections for gas money and cheap hotels and whatever they needed to get there. So there's a lot of stuff here at the top line that might be disappointing, but I'm telling you that there are some glimmers here to take away, and we need more organizations and more groups and more people like the LGBTQ caucus. I got this, guys, of Hillsborough County that says, listen, this doesn't impact me directly. This is not my congressional seat. No one is expecting me to do this, but it's the right thing to do. So I'm going to step out and do it, right? Michelle is thanking me for making sense. Michelle, Well, you're welcome, and thank you for keeping me sane, all of you, during these very chaotic times. Not exaggerating, such a weird, surreal time we're in. And, I think it's just really important when we stick together and say, hey, we're not the only ones here feeling what we're feeling. Still keeping an eye on these results, still looking good, but again, way too early. We've got 43% in. Okay, I know that we have a lot of stuff to cover. Square foot gardening, I'm going to get to you in just a second because you just raised a really important point we want to talk about. Over 41,000 likes already this evening on this Political Fixer Live. I want to thank Miss Sassy and Lawyer Esquire. I mean, so many of you, Professor Lawyer Esquire, excuse me, and so many of you for giving gifts and acknowledgement and hearts. 75 Corvette always laying down some really great knowledge as well. CJ Murphy says every journey starts with a first step. If we don't try, there is 100% chance we will lose. Another way to put it, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. See how I can always make it about sports? Okay. All right. So we've got a couple of things. We're going to keep an eye on the election results, but if you will give me just a point of personal privilege here, it is my birthday week, and some of you were kind enough to pre-request. You got it for free for me. The new book, Fearless Voice. Now, a version of A Fearless Voice came out about 10-ish years ago, talking about the very true story of what I was going through at the time with a client of mine who became allegedly, have to say it for the lawyers, stalker. So thank you, Catherine, for the lovely gifts. And thank you all for the birthday wishes. Now, Square Foot Gardening for You is saying that April 5th, the rallies. I want to mention for you that there are rallies happening all across the country. Can any of you share a link that you feel is credible with somewhere that people can find out more specifically about rallies around April 5th that are happening in their area? I would love that. Thank you to Tiffany and 75 Corvette and so many others for the happiest of birthdays. So here's my first question for you. The first question is, would you like to get this book? If you would like to order it right now, you get the first look, the first copies of it. You can order it by going to politicalfixer.com. You can even get this is the first time that we released it with new chapters. It has the true and very odd story about how I became the political fixer. And thank you, Miss Sassy, for the roses. That's amazing. Thank you, Susie, for the birthday wishes as well. So this is what I'm hoping that you take away from it. Wait, let me stop for a second. I missed something really important. You can order this on your Kindle, paperback, and for the first time ever in multiple languages, hardback. Or you can go directly to politicalfixer.com and you can get an autographed copy. The shipping is free. I'm covering that. That's my reverse birthday gift to all of you. So if you're in the United States, then the shipping is free. You get an autographed copy and you can get it. Now, I don't want for money to be the reason. I know things are tight. I've been watching that stock market myself. If you would like a free electronic copy, all you have to do is go to politicalfixer.com, go to the connect form or the contact form, let us know, and one of our team members will hook you up, right? If you like the book, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to get a quote from you. I'd love to hear if it impacts you. Here's what I'm hoping that your takeaway is going to be. I'm hoping that you see that this was a dark, dark time in my life. Don't want to go too far down that negative hole, but it was. And I felt like giving up many times. I was betrayed, as you will read, though no spoilers, by many, many, many people. I have some friends that are reading this right now and they're calling me like upset about stuff that happened 10 years ago. They're threatening to, kick some ass of some people that I haven't spoken to in 10 years. It's very sweet. Everything's fine, people. Everything's fine. But it's this idea that even when the darkness just seems to surround you, even in those moments where you think this is it, like it's not ever going to get any better, that you find that one moment, that one thing that hits your ear, that one sign that says, oh, wait, I've still got to fight. If not for me, for someone else. And that's what I want you to take away right now. I want you to get that fight and that swagger. Some of you already have it. I've been hearing about it, but I want to make sure that for some of you that are writing me, you're messaging me, you're sometimes on these lives and you're like, I am barely getting up and functioning every day. I got you, and that's okay. But what if I could give you just a shot of adrenaline, just a little bit of spunk? I want to give you an update that I'm getting on this race here. The Supreme Court race in Wisconsin, we have 46% of the votes according to the AP. It has not been called yet, but Susan Crawford is still winning by more than 15 points. We are going to circle back to that race and wait for an official call. And you're welcome, Vosh, for the encouragement. I'm so happy that you are getting something positive out of this. So here's my question for all of you, and you're not going to hurt my feelings one way or the other. Some of you had asked me to do a reading of the book, not the whole thing. This is not Cory Booker 2.0. And here I am. I shall filibuster on Political Fixer Live for 12 straight hours as I read this book. User Aries, who just moved to Tampa Bay, hello, and I'm so glad you're here. Definitely would love to connect and get some coffee now you're new to the area. All right, so I have the book flagged for a reading of a passage, if you would like it. This is your time. If so, I have two choices for you. I can either read the small excerpt about what really it felt like during a very dark time on the 2016 election. This was the real night that we all were getting the 2016 election results. And it shows like kind of where I was at that time and where I needed to go. The other option is a flashback in the courtroom to some of my, a teenage flashback of how I dealt with some of the trauma while I was sitting feet away from one of my stalkers, right? Marlene is saying you'll drive over from Seminole County. Fixers, are we going to have a cocktail hour? I feel like we might need to do that. Hey, Sarah, let's try to make that happen. Any fixers in Central Florida or that would like to be in Central Florida, actually, let's just try to do it in different places across the country. Let's try to have a cocktail hour and connect. I think this might be a really cool way to reach each other and try to have like political fixer mixers. Ooh, I like that. Someone's in Sarasota County. Okay, Sully is calling for the courtroom story. All right, let me give you a little bit of stuff on this. We're going to keep an eye on this Wisconsin race. For those of you that are new to Political Fixer, oh, look at my lovely crown. If you see me on TikTok, that's amazing. Thank you. For those of you that might be new to Political Fixer, we normally stick mostly with headlines, a few personal anecdotes for context since I'm in the business, but this is a little bit different because I want you to take this in and see just where I was and hopefully get some fire yourself. And we're going to have a lot more about this and other things and what I was inspired to do. But let me just read just a little bit when I was in the courtroom. All right. I'm sitting in the courtroom. I am sitting across from my stalker who's right there. We're in a trial to see if he gets to continue to harass me. So much more to this story, but in the courtroom, I'm drawing with precision on a series of 3 pages. I had it ready in about half an hour. This was my survival kit. 1 dash for every 5 seconds, 1 large dot for every 12 dashes, 1 side of a square for every 15 dots. Factoring in a lunch break, I thought, I just need to build 8 squares and I will have lived through day 1. And then there is a flashback to why do I draw and count during moments of trauma? Do any of you do that when you're like super scared or super stressed? You count. I do. I learned this about myself. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Shawna, the doctor called my name again, and I turned my head away from the sunbeams and squinted into her fluorescent lit office to look at her. I asked how many there are. I hadn't been paying attention. It was 1995, my senior year in high school. Ooh, I just dated myself. And I had been to a legion of doctors over the past several months. I typically just spaced out for the duration of each appointment, gave whatever amount of blood they demanded for my tests, and I waited for the eventual shrug to indicate that I was allowed to leave because these doctors couldn't help me. Though I was quite sure that this random specialist was not going to be able to identify the mysterious illness that was ravaging my teenage body, apparently I wasn't dismissed yet. There would be more questions before she gave up on me. How many what? I asked with an exaggerated sigh, preparing to give her whatever information she was too lazy to glean from my thick medical chart. How many pounds I'd lost, enough to go from skinny to skeletal. How many days a month was I in pain? Most of them. How long had it been going on? Over a year. What did nobody want to say out loud? That I likely didn't have another year left to live at the rate that I was going. Bring it, lady, I thought. You're not going to crack the code. I just want to make it home before The Young and the Restless starts. She said, how many windows are there in the building across the street, while staring at me intently. Wait, what? I asked, more than a little confused. My mother jumped in immediately. Why would you ask her that? Things had become unbearably tense between my mother and I since I moved out to live on a friend's sofa. But for the past few weeks, my mother had insisted on coming with me to every doctor's appointment. One might think it was a maternal instinct, but I was inclined to believe that it had more to do with a previous doctor's appointment where I was prescribed anti-anxiety medicine and told that I had a chaotic home situation that was contributing to my health's decline. My mother had scoffed in derision when I goaded her with the news. See, I'm dying, and it's because you're a terrible parent. And she said, they're just giving away medical degrees to any idiot these days, aren't they? She never missed a scheduled visit after that, saying each time that she picked me up that she had to make sure that these quacks actually tried to heal somebody instead of blaming everything on the parents. Truthfully, I didn't buy into the pop a pill while you complain from the couch diagnosis either, but I enjoyed how much it annoyed her. Watching her flare up about the window question suddenly put me firmly on the team of random specialist doctor. 144, I answered, on this side. 137 in view, but based on the math, there's got to be 144 here and likely another 144 on the other side. Then there's 6 large panels on the entrance. My mother started to say something, and random doctor raised her arm to stop her. How many ceiling tiles? Ceiling tiles? I repeated, confused. Tell me right now, without looking, how many ceiling tiles are in my office. I held my breath, unsure of where all this was going. Not counting half the tiles, 102. And counting the half tiles? I stared at my feet, suddenly embarrassed that I did know the answer. 112.5. The doctor revealed the secret behind her magic trick. Your daughter doesn't have one disease, she explained. She has symptoms resulting from a series of illnesses that are collectively, she trailed off and indicated towards my emaciated body. I'm not imagining this, I yelled defensively. Look at me, I'm not making this up. I was starting to tear up, angry at the accusation that my mystery disease wasn't real and embarrassed that the doctor caught me counting. You're misunderstanding me, she said. Your pain is very real, and if we find the source of that pain, it will be a good start. But the weight loss, the fainting, the lack of energy, the good news is that these are things you can start working on now. She said, I'll make a deal with you. Come up with a system to count how many bites of food you can keep down and how many steps you can walk each day. As long as you keep these numbers up while we're working on figuring out what's happening, I'll be happy. So I decided that I could get through anything as long as it was one piece of time, one thing to count at a time. And I became the ultimate deal maker with numbers. I can't eat today. Just swallow 6 bites of mashed potatoes and you can lay down for an hour. I can't make it across campus to my classes without my wheelchair. Walk 100 steps and you can sit down and rest. I can't sit in the same room with my stalker during a trial that could dictate the trajectory of my life without screaming. Just draw 8 squares on a piece of paper and you can go home and cry for as long as you need to. And that is an expert at trauma right there, a fearless voice. And let's bring it back to the light. If you would like to get a copy of A Fearless Voice and find out how I dug out of that hole and into where we are now with the loveliness of all of you people, you can go to politicalfixer.com. And right now on Political Fixer Live, we are excited to announce that it has been called, that Susan Crawford has officially not just beaten, but shellacked Brad Schimmel. Okay. If you don't know why this is a big deal, let me tell you the gossip. Okay, Divine AF Girl, thank you so, so much. All right, Marlene, yay. All right, here we go. Elon Musk tried to buy the seat. That is my opinion, not an accusation, whatever. Spent millions of dollars, $2 million of his own money directly to the Wisconsin GOP, over $18 million to PACs and other organizations to buy this Supreme Court seat. How far did he go? Some of you may have seen. He not only spent over $20 million of his own money, he also had an event in Wisconsin where he gave away $2 million checks. I see, is it May You and Mickey too? Oh, Me, You and Mickey too. I gotcha. Yes, thank you for calling that out. Love the name, by the way. Okay. So he tried to buy this seat. in my opinion. Again, the lawyers are all over me with this kind of qualifying stuff. So he held a rally and said that the only way you could get in is if you had already voted. As if that wasn't corrupt enough, as if giving away $2 million checks was not corrupt enough. Out of the over 500,000 early votes that had already been cast by the time that event was held, one of those, out of the two humans that got $1 million checks, one of those just happened to be the head of the Wisconsin College Republicans. All kinds of gross, sleazy, give me a shower, what are you doing to our democracy was happening right now, right? And no one stopped him, of course, except for the voters. The voters stopped him. This is so important. This was the capital T-H-E, the most expensive judicial race in our nation's history across the board, not just in Wisconsin, across the country. When you added up both sides and all the PAC and all the outside money that was tabulated, who knows what fraudulent stuff, again, was happening behind the scenes. Over $100 million is the estimate all in for a judicial race. Now, why did Elon Musk want this race? Is it because he just likes to buy stuff that he can't have? Is it a vanity play? Is it because this guy, again, is such a 47 fan? I just did a video on this on TikTok, I think yesterday. Not only did the guy who's running against, who just lost to Susan Crawford, Brad Schimmel is not just MAGA. He got a custom ordered 50-foot tall balloon of the guy in the Oval. And again, dressed like him for Halloween. This guy is... like, what would you call a fangirl of that guy? I don't know. Like, I don't know. We need a name for when they're not just like MAGA. They're just like, what's the MAGA equivalent of a Swiftie, right? Okay. Fanatical. So, they were pulling for this guy. But here's something that a lot of people didn't realize. Why was Elon Musk focusing on that seat compared to anything else? Because Tesla has a lawsuit that has been filed in the state of Wisconsin. That lawsuit is preventing that right now. The way the Wisconsin law is, Tesla is limited in how many dealerships they can open. So right now they can't open more dealerships in Wisconsin. Now I know what you're saying to yourselves. Why would you want to open another dealership when the other ones are getting harassed? Thanks to all of you guys and the wonderful work that you're doing with the Tesla takedowns, because it's stopping their productivity, it's stopping their sales numbers, and they still believe that they would be able to sell more cars if they had more dealerships. For him, this was an investment, in my opinion. So they have a lawsuit. It went to Wisconsin, which is the area where this law is preventing them from opening dealerships. And guess what, friends? That lawsuit is expected to soon reach the state Supreme Court. And Brad Schimmel was asked about that very lawsuit. And while there was no law, because why would there be, asking him or making him recuse himself from this, he was asked, would he step down and say, listen, I'm not neutral here. This guy has given me over $20 million to help elect me. I can't rule on this. And he said, no, there's no reason for me to recuse myself. I don't see a conflict of interest. So he wasn't just trying to buy a seat. He was trying to buy a ruling, right? And so for a guy who is not used to being told no, who just successfully pulled off helping someone else to power that honestly, some of us did not think it was possible that guy would make it back to the Oval. So they're running around on a victory lap. This was the first major close seat that has been up for grabs since the November election. Don't get me wrong. The Florida seats are important. They were in play. I'm very proud of how those candidates did and their staff members and their teams and their volunteers. I think even though they lost, it matters. However, people in DC were not sitting around sweating the Florida race. They were worried about this Wisconsin race. Wisconsin is a swing state. Brad Schimmel is an election denier. There's no doubt that in addition to the awful things that he said about women's rights, what would have happened for this, right? And yet Susan Crawford, and let's be honest, the people and the voters of Wisconsin that made the message that they're not for sale, they just won by a lot. Now, I'm seeing 57% in, and she's up by around 11.5 points. That is huge in that seat. Normally, again, for context, this seat is very close. Wisconsin State Supreme Court seats, even when they've had special or spring elections, have usually been razor thin. The Democrats, even though these are technically nonpartisan races, they know essentially who the more liberal and who the more conservative justices are. And the liberal judge that took the bench before, that turned the entire court. It's a smaller court, and that one vote made all of the difference. And there have been some very important rulings since then. This would have changed the entire Supreme Court of the state of Wisconsin. And no matter how much money he threw at his problems, he lost. He lost. Our democracy, turns out, is not fully for sale. That's the thing. Go Big Go says, let's effing go. I agree. Let's go. This is a positive story. Michelle has a fun announcement. She was just elected vice chair of her local Democratic Party this weekend. Michelle, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you do. Step up, step in, and take it. I love that. Congrats. Oh my goodness. Milwaukee Journal has her in the lead. I'm seeing, okay, AP has not called this yet. I'm telling you, it would have to swing dramatically. She's now pulling even farther ahead. She's up by almost 13 points with 62% of the votes in. This is amazing. I was watching this very closely. If this had gone for him with the early voting returns we were seeing, with the early numbers we were seeing, I would have been upset about this one. Florida, I'm disappointed. This one I would have been upset as I take my Texas drink of choice. Christy B is saying that NBC has called the race. Thank you, Christy B. I love that. Okay, guys, it's been an exciting night. Let's go ahead and wrap up on some positive stuff. Let's talk about what you can expect from next week's Political Fixer Live. First of all, thank you for joining me on this special Election Tuesday. I also want to thank our friends at Call Sheet, who have been amazing supporters of the program and the content. If you get a chance, check them out. They have been very generous supporters of ours. And honestly, if you read about some of their ownership and board members, I was genuinely surprised after the election that they stuck with us. So thank you to Call Sheet. We have some other fun partners that are going to be coming to the table in the weeks and months ahead to offer you all some special opportunities, special deals, things like that. We're screening them very carefully. By we, I mean Sarah, our chief of staff. She does all the real work around here. We're making sure that we try to get you guys access to some really cool stuff moving forward. But next week, it's all about free stuff. We talked about the book for this week. Really excited. We will be talking more about that. A Fearless Voice. I really hope you'll get it. Again, don't let money be the reason. I understand a tight budget. I do. Just send us a private email or something on the contact form on Political Fixer, and we will hook you up. I can't send it by DM on any of these platforms. It won't let me send you links for security reasons. So you got to send me an email or a contact form on politicalfixer.com. And then you can order it on politicalfixer.com. You can order it on Kindle, on paperback for the first time ever, in hardback, or you can even get an autographed copy. If you would like to host a book club in your area, let us know. I will hook you up with questions. I might be able to Zoom in, whatever you would like. We will make sure that we get those connections for you. So let Sarah know. We will make that happen. I love you. Square Foot Gardening for You is saying, ask your library for it. Ask them to put it. Go Big Go says, can we get it in PDF? Absolutely. Just email us. You can either email Sarah at politicalfixer.com, or you can go to politicalfixer.com and hit connect and fill out that contact form, and we'll make sure you get it on PDF. So you can read it on your phone, your tablet, what have you. And Sisters Keeper says, love your name. You're a Shawna too? Oh my gosh. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Do you spell it the same? No one spells it the same, right? And yes, we are creating the audiobook, so we'll be working on that. Thank you to Eddie for helping me figure out the production on that. So I can't believe that, Sisters Keeper. We're Shawna twins. That's amazing. Okay, so next week, what are we doing? Thank you, Tracy, for the gifts. Next week, we have a big announcement. We talked a lot about Cory Booker and being inspired. There is, and I agree with you, Sisters Keeper, that is the only correct way to spell it. So we talked about Cory Booker and this idea of doing something, of getting involved. And I want to tell you that things work. And also, I want to say really quickly to Michelle, the one that just got voted as vice chair, you've got some comments that are coming in on YouTube as well, congratulating you. So high five. there are two ways that I get motivated, right? One of them is through positive reinforcement or inspiration, like spending time with you guys. Thank you, visionary girl. And sometimes I get motivated by being angry. Now, I would like to say that Cory Booker mobilized me with his amazing speech, and that's what caused my team and I to build what next week's surprise is for all of you. But that, while it would be a lovely Cinderella story for everything, is not actually what happened. Thank you, Cassandra St. Clair. What happened is that I went to dinner with someone and got angry. Let me tell you a 30-second version of gossip really fast. Remember when I told you I was trying to get help for those congressional races in Florida? Well, I went out to eat with a larger donor / power broker that's in politics. I'm giving zero details because I'm not trying to humiliate this person or his very nice wife who I felt sorry for. This dude sits across the table from me, and essentially what my takeaway is he'll support what we're working on with Political Fixer Live, with trying to help with these special races, with trying to make a difference with Equal Rights Now. He even mentioned our Equal Rights Now amendment to try to get the amendment ratified in the Constitution for women. He'll help me with all of that. There was just one condition. Friends, you are not going to believe this. I'll tell you who will believe it. My team, who had to listen to me rant for 15 minutes after I got back. The condition is that I had to kind of grow up and stop being emotional and focusing on women's issues and LGBTQ issues and Black issues that are a distraction, and realize that the responsible thing to do is to only nominate and elect white men for office for the next several years. I'm sorry, what? What did we say? Yeah. Okay. So here's what happened. So this man says this with a straight face. The Texan in me came out. That's another story for another time. But here's the punchline to this. My team and I have been working for months, as some of you all know, and you're starting to see some of that slowly coming out. When I tell you that I took an eraser to the whiteboard of the World Domination Plan and made it bigger, oh yeah, I thought I was going to scare Sarah. To her credit, Sarah never gets scared. But no, I was like, oh, no, we're doing this. Okay. So I had my little Julia Sugar Baker streak. And if you want to see the results of what happens when I get angry, it means that I fight. And I'm like, no, we're doing this even more. We're going even harder, right? And so that's what you get to see next week. No ranting, no raving, the positive outcome, which is, all right, you are mad at me, sir, because I'm going hard and fighting for other people. Then what am I going to do? Go harder. That's right. I'm going to go harder. So we looked at the drawing board and said, what can we do? Right? BB says, did you tell him? Sure, buddy. Yes. Add more expletives to that. And absolutely. Okay. So, Genification says Shawna is what I wanted to name my daughter. But wait, do you mind sharing, Genification, what you did name her? If you don't want to share, if you want to share privately, that's fine. I don't blame you, but I would love to know what you did name her that's close to Shawna. So yeah. So we have some fun stuff to share with you. What are we doing? Our do something just turned into do a hell of a lot, and we're going to need your help. Now, some of you have already stepped up. You have already volunteered. We have artwork that's coming in from some of you. You're going to get to meet some of our artists. We're going to reveal some of their artwork. There's some really great ways you could participate, but we've got another way. When I said midterms are the focus, I don't mean that we're going to go around and just raise money for candidates. That is important. Candidates need money. Elections are important. But we're going to take a different approach. What can we do to change the game with organizations, with local communities, with activists and advocates like you? What can we get in your hands to topple this game board? That was the question that we started with. And with a few phone calls and a lot of 20-hour days, we've got an answer for you. So mark your calendars. Tuesday, next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be revealing to you what that is. We're also going to be covering more of the headlines and announcements. We're going to be introducing some of you to each other. I'll be connecting some of you to some of the comments, artwork, and activities that you all are doing. Here's your homework. Are you ready? Here's your homework. 2 things. I want you to think about what you think would make a difference right now for you if you were trying to get involved. Do you need help connecting to people? Do you need resources to make it happen? Do you feel like you know what you want to get done, but you don't know how to get there? I want that answer from you next week. And if you want to share it now or send us a comment on politicalfixer.com, that information is very important to us because that is the answer that we're focusing on. What can we do to help you make a difference? That is the goal. So that's a little spoiler for what we'll be working on next week. So think about that answer. We have a draft of what we're doing. We have a start. We're very proud of it. It is just the beginning. Your second bit of homework is I want you to try to pick a storyline or two and pay attention as much as you can to one or two things. I'm not saying don't consume as much news as is healthy or possibly unhealthy, but here's what we're looking for. There's so much happening that we can't cover it all. And I love how people like 75 Corvette are saying, you know, hey, I've got this information. I know that Professor Liberty Esquire is also constantly giving us information. We want to make that information readily available to people not on these lives. We want them to be able to go there and say, okay, I don't understand this. Put this into context. What are topics that matter to you? Or what's something that's a story you just can't let go of no matter what other story eclipses it, right? For me, this immigration thing has me very upset. This El Salvador thing, angry all the time. That's one of mine. What are some of yours? It could be related to you in some way or not. Pick one or two and think of those because we need, I don't even say subject matter experts, but we need people paying attention in multiple areas, right? So start thinking about what are the mountains you want to tackle, and then what do you need to make a difference? I get that you might not be able to change all the immigration policy or whatever your topic is, but I mean locally. What could you do in your backyard to make a difference? We had some disappointments in Florida, but some glimmers of hope. We had a lot of hope that came from now the record-holding, longest filibuster speaking up on behalf of all of democracy, Senator Cory Booker. Just an amazing night. But here, love to end on the petty, Elon Musk lost. Elon Musk lost. Raise a glass, or can of Dr. Pepper, not a sponsor. You guys just know the Texan to me. I love Dr. Pepper. Raise a glass to many, many more of those losses from the Doge camp, shall we? I mean, Signalgate, can we talk about that? Anyway, okay, final question for the night as I let you all go. Thank you for spending some of my birthday week with me. How do you feel tonight? Do you leave feeling a little inspired? Are you feeling a little bit motivated? Do you feel like you can tackle something, just a little something? Are you ready to come to the table and work, or at least help give a lovely shove and positive boost to someone else who's got something cooking, right? Love it. I love how Linda and Vix are connecting. I love Cassandra says she's feeling inspired. I've got hopeful. I've got Professor Liberty Esquire. The live Save My Sanity. Same. People talking about leaving Cory Booker some positive messages. Marlene, I'm glad I'm calming your nerves. Puck, what a lovely cake. I wish I could actually eat that cake. And I love that you guys are talking about glimmers of hope. Yes, connect with each other. Oh, I can't wait for next week. Guys, there's many fun surprises. Next Tuesday at 9. Would have been happy if Florida flipped. I agree. Same. Would love, you know. And I'm actually serious about these political fixer mixers. I actually really like the idea of us trying to connect in person as we can in different parts of the country. I'm on the road all the time anyway. I would love to see people that I like, that I get to hear about you all. I know that Michelle, you mentioned that you're vice chair of your party. Do you mind sharing what state you're in? You don't have to do it publicly, but message me. I would love that. And we've got, people are giving acknowledgement. Los Angeles, love that. Okay, let's keep this momentum going. In the meantime, be safe, take care of each other. Do not let them tell you it can't be done. Oh, this Wisconsin race, take that energy in. No, you do not own us. No, you cannot buy us, and you're not going to win. Your days of winning are done. We are rising up right now. I love that. Montana. I have never been to Montana. We've got Denver's Girl ironically mentioning Oklahoma. Love that. Wisconsin is getting some shout outs for what they did. I love it. Okay. Really appreciate you all. This has been a very surreal few months as we've been in development, and I've been healing, and we've got the book, and there's just lots of feelings on a birthday. But the fact that I get to spend it with you all Think about me on Thursday when it's my actual birthday. Yay to all the Aries out there, including my amazing producer, Eddie. He's also an Aries. And while I'm at it, I want to thank our political fixer team. Tonight, we had our Chief of Staff, Sarah, we had J Robot, and we had Eddie as well. Love it. Just really, really happy. Happy birthday early to Linda, who's April 6th. Love that. Autumn is saying Oklahoma is a hard place to be right now. I feel you. What if we try to do something there? I know very little about Oklahoma, I'll be honest, but it doesn't take a lot for us to put together some sort of event, right? So listen, there's no secret that my inbox stays pretty jammed, but you guys see Sarah, right? Sarah 2MA, because her name's Tuma. It's really great. She's super clever. Sarah, ping Sarah. She's going to help me go through my inbox as well. Now that we're out of development with this book, I'll have more time to get back to all of you. But yes, let's make this happen. Connect with Sarah, make some suggestions, or, those are real email addresses on politicalfixer.com as well. And Sisters Keeper says, my mom and daughter are both Aries, who I now know Sisters Keeper is also a Shawna. So Shawna says her mom and sister are both Aries. So that must be why you can put up with strong personalities like myself. Puck, thank you so much for the gifts. And Jigo Gal, thank you as well. I love it. Okay, let's see how we did tonight, guys. We had lots of engagement. Oh, one final thing that I want to congratulate you with. They gave it to me as if I had done something. But this was your honor. We got a notice from TikTok that we're going to talk more about this next week. We got a notice that this is the #1 live show in our category. The #1 live show. We got that notice. I'll pull that out for you all. That is you guys. They specifically cited audience engagement as the reason that we got that recognition. I know I kind of spoiled some stuff that we're going to do next week with all of that because we're going to roll that out with the press or whatever, but that's pretty amazing. So they did that again. They sent me a very nice, colorful, balloon thing or whatever by email to let me know, but that's your accomplishment. So congratulations, Political Fixer Live crew. All of you on TikTok made this the #1 live show in our category. Getting lots of love and goats and roses here, right? So let's take that energy and do something with it. So I love it. 75 Corvette is trying to get you guys to 100,000, which I love, but you know what? This was a good night. This was a really good night. And I see Nini and Catherine, so many of you. Also, I don't want to leave out our YouTube crew who are on here, especially our regulars. We have Kelly, we have CJ, we have Jean. Jean, correct me please if it's Jeannie, as in I dream of, or if it's Jean as in blue jean. One of my favorite Beyonce songs. So with the Levi's jeans. So please let me know if I'm mispronouncing your name. Autumn, I want to take you up on that organizing, right? I would love to try to get to Oklahoma, but worst case scenario, we could do something that's a special exclusive thing on YouTube Live or a closed Zoom or something. Let's make something like that happen. Absolutely. And oh my gosh, you guys did it. We hit over 100K. You guys overshot. We hit almost 102. That's awesome. Tennessee. Yes. Oh, I love Tennessee. Can we go to Dollywood? That is my question for you. Love Dollywood. I've only gotten to go one time ever, but yes. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Thank you, Cynthia Fontaine and so many Vosh, all of our regular Political Fixers and some of our new family members. Please follow me on Political Fixer for more and to be part of apparently what is the #1 live program on TikTok in our category. That just happened, right? So we're going to have lots more for you in the meantime. What a great night. Enjoy the Wisconsin victory. Take that energy into the week. Take that Cory Booker swagger with you into the week. Think about your homework, what you want to do, what you need as far as help to get there. Think about where and how we can meet. Let's bring that joy back. Can we do that? Because I saw that glimmer and I'm ready to take it. I think we can do this. And I know that I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else besides all of you. On behalf of myself, my family that has been so supportive with me as I've gotten through this last phase of development and editing and agonizing over the book and other things. And of course, my fearless Political Fixer team. I want to thank you all. I will see you next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern. Let's make it happen, everyone. See you soon. Dream of Jeannie. Got it. Okay, so glad you corrected me, Jeannie. I've got you now. Jeannification. Okay, we got it. Love it.